Queer TV. Hi, after Carrie, I want my queer TV. We want our queer TV.
I am Christina Applegate, and I want my queer TV.
I am Katie Seagal, and you are watching Tinseltown's Queer from the Playboy Mansion. I mean, how cool is that?
It's very cool.
We're at the Playboy Mansion.
Well, welcome.
Hello everybody, Nicholas Snow here. Welcome to a very special episode of PromoHomo.TV. So often trans and binary people's stories are told only through the lens of their struggles and challenges, including their political battles for legal rights, but trans and non-binary people live rich and fulfilling lives full of joy and community too. Groundbreaking in its depictions of joy and community, Authentic Selves celebrates trans and non-binary people and their families in stunning photographs and their own words. Authentic Selves is a sweeping compilation of life stories and portraits of trans and non-binary people, as well as their partners, parents, children, siblings, and chosen family members. And on this episode today, I'm so excited that I'm going to be welcoming Peggy Gillespie, who conducted all of the interviews in this book. And I believe we're going to surmount some technical challenges. And I'm also going to be able to have Giuseppe Angelo Morelli on the show, aka Joey, as his friends call him. And it's a great time. It's a great time to have a show like this. So don't go away because we're about to be very inspired. PromoHomo.TV is all about empowering you, our communities, and our world. For their support of PromoHomo.TV, I wish to thank my sponsors. DAP Health. I've been a grateful client of DAP Health for more than a decade. One of their value statements, we welcome all people. Period.
Nothing like the city where I got tired of the running.
Willie's Modern Fare, 1501 Uptown Gastropub, and 849 Restaurant and Lounge. 3 restaurants, unlimited flavors. Shouting out to my media partners. Pink Media, amplifying PromoHomo.TV across the Twitterverse with their #ILoveGay campaign. David Perry and Associates, a PR and marketing firm. GayDesertGuide.lgbt. And KGay 1065 Palm Springs, available worldwide. Ask your smart speaker to play KGAY. And last but not least, the PromoHomo.TV superstars who voluntarily subscribe to the free content at PromoHomo.TV for as little as $1 a month. Join them at patreon.com/PromoHomo.TV. meet many of them at PromoHomo.TV/superstars. Now here's how you can step up to the plate. To find out how you can help me empower you, our communities, and our world, visit PromoHomo.TV/empower. Thank you. I'm so excited about today's episode. The stories in Authentic Selves provide a glimpse into the real lives, both the challenges and the triumphs of these remarkable people and their families. And the interviews in the book have been conducted by Peggy Gillespie, my special guest today. And she's the co-founder and director of Family Diversity Projects, a nonprofit organization devoted to helping eliminate prejudice. The organization tells the stories of real people presented in award-winning traveling photo and text exhibits. Gillespie is the editor of all the exhibits and books, including Love Makes a Family, portraits of LGBT people and their families, among others. And also, a bit later in the episode, I'm honored to present one of the subject matters of the book, Giuseppe Angelo Morelli, and he has a powerful story as well, and his friends call him Joey. So without further delay, let me welcome to the show Peggy Gillespie. Hi, Peggy.
Hi there, Nicholas. What a beautiful intro. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's an honor to have you, and what struck me as I reviewed the book this afternoon is it's put in the context of the fact that trans and non-binary people are living these amazing lives, even in the midst of all these battles and this hate that is being leveraged against them. And for me, I'm thinking that it's all about the battles right now because that's what's in front of us. But it is really valuable to take a step back and just really look at the humanity.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you said that, because we actually chose the word celebrating in our subtitle, celebrating trans and non-binary people and their families, because it's a lot of times people just think it's going to be stories of suffering and misery, when yes, many of the people went through incredibly painful times growing up, coming out to themselves, then coming out sometimes to very non-accepting family members, and then each one of the ones that I interviewed, each family, each person wound up either through chosen family or through the evolution and education of their bio families, of really coming to a place of celebrating who they are and no longer feeling that they had to live inauthentic lives and hide who they were in the world.
It was so hard for me to come out as a cis white male in a world that was constructed for me,
Yes.
And at the time I was coming out, yes, I was in a conservative state, in a conservative Republican family, and everyone coming out has their own challenges. But I can't imagine what it's like to come out when you have other layers of intersectionalities that give you a completely different set of circumstances and challenges.
Yes, and I mean, in particular, as you said, right now, but for a long time, people who are trans in this country were treated as with so much hatred or disdain, and some of them even say from the LGBT community, they were not really embraced. But now, facing the legislators and the as the Tony Award-winning actress said, the Grand Wizard of Florida, the Governor DeSantis, and people of his cruel ilk, that it's making people, trans youth in particular, and their families have to escape these states and be warned now by the Human Rights Campaign and many other organizations that we're in a time period where it's not safe to be LGBTQ so many areas, and books being banned. I mean, all the things that everybody, I'm sure, in your audience knows. And to take these remarkable people and have to put them in a world where I don't understand it, where there's so much hatred and being used as a division, as a divisive culture war central figure, the trans world, as though they're destroying America. I mean, the Republican right wing is just seem to be gleefully embracing that completely ignorant view and harming so many of our young people.
It's so scary, Peggy. And I live in Palm Springs, California, a mecca for the LGBTQ community, and even with that level of privilege and circumstance, I feel beat up by what's going on in our community today. But I'm nowhere near as in harm's way as so many other people in our community who are, in the bullseye. And, this is celebrating trans and binary people. And it's the most important time ever to do that in the face of this propagation of ignorance.
Exactly. I mean, my wish is the exhibit now is also just begun traveling. And I just had it put in 3 elementary schools and a middle school. And where I live, which is Northampton, Amherst area of Massachusetts, our middle school in Amherst has been in the national news because 3 of the people, an assistant superintendent and 2 guidance counselors, have been accused and clearly have done horrible mistreatment of the trans kids in the school, including suggesting conversion therapy. The high schoolers did investigative reporting and wrote a huge article that's now had like 50,000 views because they discovered the sort of what had happened to get these people in those positions. And right now, that middle school where this is going on has our exhibit on the walls, basically proclaiming we are not going to stand by and allow this transphobia and anti-non-binary people or gender non-conforming people to stand. And the students are protesting. And then I saw it, and I think this is important. We hear so much about we shouldn't be teaching young children about LGBTQ people. Well, the exhibit went into a pre-K through 6 school that actually my grown non-binary offspring, 36-year-old, had attended as from age 3 to 12. And they brought the exhibit in for a month, and they infused every aspect of the curriculum, from the 3-year-olds who now know every pronoun, every expression about, and understanding from everybody's age appropriate level what it means to respect all people and embrace the equality of all people. I went to the faculty's reflection on what happened, where they shared about 2 weeks ago what each class had done, including the gym classes and the art classes. I was in tears, I have to say, the whole time at the brilliance and importance. I said, this should be on national TV, this to show why we need to teach gender equality, gender understanding, gay and LGBT, every issue to young people, because they're the ones who can change our world. That's where our hope lies, is growing up unbiased, without prejudice, with understanding of what bullying does to people. And I just feel like that's what we're hoping. Our exhibit goes into so many schools, colleges, libraries, houses of worship, businesses, state capitals, so that people can see what celebrating trans and non-binary lives is about versus denigrating and not understanding. It just takes education. It just takes like a little kid saying, oh, I have a white shirt too, and I like that person in that picture, and I really like, oh, that person used to identify as a boy but now knows that they're a girl. That's really cool. Like these are the things I heard little kids were saying, or the older kids. We're all created equal. Remember, with a big question mark. That's what I want. That's the purpose of the book, to help support LGBTQ plus kids, families, and adults, because many people like Joey came out at 55, I think, as trans, and to share with the world why it's so important to not just be an ally in name, but to really work hard, each and every one of us cisgender allies, to challenge what is happening right now in schools and in state legislations and the medical rules that are, not allowing parents to allow their children to get treatment, testosterone or estrogen or puberty blockers. It's a cruel, horrifying time right now, and I want to celebrate the beauty of each and every human being, and in particular the trans and non-binary communities.
Well, I certainly hope that, as you mentioned, that your book and exhibit do make national news, and that these stories, of which there are many, continue to impact in a positive way the circumstances for our community today. And in looking here at the table of contents, there's approximately, I'm going to say, 24 stories at least in this book.
Yeah, more, 35 actually.
All right, 35, yes, 35. Before we bring Joey in and talk about some of the other powerful stories in the book, you mentioned something to me off camera before the show started that I would love to revisit. So, like any good gay boy, I watched the Tony Awards.
Oh, yes.
And the Tony Awards, it took me by surprise that although it shouldn't, but it was just so amazing that the Tony Awards were basically a huge pep rally for the transgender, non-binary community. And then to see at least 2 historic wins of transgender, non-binary individuals on that stage was just so overwhelmingly powerful for so many reasons. So I'm setting you up to tell the story about one of the shows that you saw this past week and what happened there.
Okay, so I think I had just gone from our book signing and for this and book reading with this panel, and feeling this tremendous excitement about what it is to tell these stories and get them out in the world. And then I go to Shucked, a new Broadway musical that the person Alex Newell, as self-described, I'm a fat, black, non-binary girl from Massachusetts, and she won for Shucked, being the very first non-binary out person to win a Tony Award. So I went to the play.
And then the second happened that night.
Yes, one of the stars of Some Like It Hot, which I also have seen and recommend to everyone, because it really shifts that old movie story, which I loved, but to a trans story of somebody really coming into being. I'm not just dressing as a woman, I am a woman. And it was beautiful, beautiful too. But so I go to the theater, it's the first show.
For Shucked.
Right, for Shucked. First night after the Tonys, which was Sunday, so this was a Tuesday night show. And at the very end, there's a, spoiler alert, there's a proposal being given to Alex Newell by this formerly sleazy guy, but who's reforming. And he's like down on his knees, and he's saying his lines like, "Thank you so much for your beauty and your tremendous spirit, and I'd like to marry you, and I also just want to celebrate your shining Tony." And I mean, surprising everybody, the whole stage, every actor up there burst into laughter, and the audience, we got up in like instantly screaming and yelling for at least 5 minutes, cheering Alex Newell. And then finally Alex is just like, okay, sit down, like show must go on, basically. But it just felt like one of those great theater moments of the cast and the audience celebrating what was historic, and
So,
hopefully many new people will receive these awards.
so beautiful. It makes me just want to cry when I hear stories like that.
Yeah.
So, how did you come to find the people that you've included in this powerful book?
Well, that was a whole process. So, I worked on it after COVID started. All the exhibits stopped traveling, so I decided to write a book proposal. It got accepted immediately by Skinner House,
And it sold out its first printing.
before it was actually published on May 2nd from pre-orders. Yes. And we want, please, everybody, just buy it, give it to friends, give it to libraries, give it to schools. But so to find people it's the kind of thing like word of mouth. Like if I'd known you, I would have said, do you know anybody out in Palm Springs who might be interested? And then we had a photographer, Robin Rain, down in Atlanta, who found me like about 10 families and photographed some of the best photographs in the book, I think. And then I might start to say, well, I was at a retreat, and a woman was teaching diversity inclusion and mentioned having a trans daughter. And I went up to her afterwards, this was right at the end, and I needed more trans women. And I said, hey, do you think your daughter would be willing to do it? And they're the Filipino family on the cover, Angel and Helica, the mother, and the two brothers. And one person, like Joey, turned me on to a young Native American on a reservation who's trans youth, trans man, and it just kind of word of mouth, me spreading, like I need a family that blah, wonderful. About 6 or 7 of them were local, and when we had a panel at this elementary school that I was telling you about 8 of them spoke and mesmerized like the adults and children in the room for an hour of just sharing their stories and why they did a book like this, why they wanted to help other people not go through what they had gone through, of feeling so alone. Jazz Jennings and Jeanette, who wrote the Foreword, talked a lot about being alone, feeling alone in the world, and that we don't want to perpetuate that sense of there's nobody else like me. And many kids in the book, now adults, grew up feeling, not knowing even what it was to be trans.
What is the best website address for people to find more about your work and the book and ways to have the exhibit in their community?
Right. Well, it's Family Diversity Projects with an S, Family Diversity Projects at Gmail.
No, that's the
email at familydiversityprojects.org, www.familydiversityprojects.org. And
is that correct?
you
I spelled it wrong.
Right, but
I'm going to fix it right now, people. So it's
DIVERSITY. So that shows all of our 8 exhibits. We have them on immigrants and refugees and LGBT asylum seekers and multiracial families and people dealing with mental illness and disability. So we have many different topics that are facing all the marginalized people and trying to bring the intersectionality of all people that are dealt with as not equal. And the book, you can order it from there, or you can order it anywhere, any bookstore. Of course, I prefer small bookstores, but if you love the book, review it on Amazon, because that helps. And spread the word through social media about our exhibit and about the book.
I've just posted a link to the book in the comments, and people are seeing this website on the screen as well. But I'm also going to paste it into the comments on the 4 platforms where this is broadcasting right now. So that's out there in the comments as well. And waiting patiently in the green room all this time has been Joey. And we're going to attempt to bring Joey in. I think that he's resolved the technical issues. So here we go. Hi, Joey.
Well, better.
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Good.
I'm going to put you center stage. There you are. So where are you right now?
I am in New York at the moment. I drove here almost in the beginning of June, and so I'm here in New York City.
Oh, okay. If you would move closer to your phone, that would help us with the audio.
Okay.
So I was really profoundly moved by your story, which I read today, and you came out as trans at the age of 55.
Yeah, 54. I mean, I think that's the thing that most people need to understand is that it's a process. And depending on where you are or what kind of job you had, I was a law enforcement officer. I'm retired now, but when I was a law enforcement officer, it was still a psychological disorder. So when I finally came to the realization, because I lived as a out lesbian for many, many years, when I finally came to a realization that, I always felt that there was something else not right. I wasn't sure what it was. And then, this fabulous Black trans woman sat with me and told me her story. And the light bulb went on. And so that was back in 2009. So all that time, there's a process that you go through. And also thinking about, what is your family going to say? Are you going to, where are you going to be at that? Are you going to have a job? Are you going to lose your God? Are you going to lose your family? Are you going to lose your partner? All those things come into your head. I grew up, we didn't even have language around LGBT folks, in the era I grew up in. They didn't educate you on LGBT folks. I went to college. I didn't really know a lot about trans folks. I knew about lesbian and gay folks when I went to college, but not trans folks. And so it's interesting when they talk about education. Education is so important at a young age, to give that time to understand yourself and grow when you have language for it. When you don't have language for it, you don't understand yourself. And then working as a law enforcement officer all those years, it was very easy to suppress yourself. Okay, I understand that this might be who I am, but what do I do now? And so that's why it's so important that we keep talking about it, we keep educating, so we're giving out resources to folks so that they do have a place to go and know that they're not alone. That's the reason I did the book.
And how did Peggy? How did you come to know about Joey's story?
So I have a friend up here, Chris, who happened to meet Joey before Joey's transition on a civil rights tour of the South. And when my friend Chris told me, I told Chris about the book and and people that I was trying to find. She said, "Oh, I have this great person named Joey. We're chosen family now." And Joey had kind of both of them had adopted each other as family. And Chris is more my age, and Joey's a kid. No, anybody under 70 now that I turned 75, we see as sort of toddlers. But so got introduced to Joey on the phone, I think, and I did the interviewed Chris, and then Joey came to visit when I think your mom died in New Jersey, and came to visit Chris up here, and we actually met in person. And then since then, Joey has been a profoundly activist person. We're going to have Joey be a director of outreach and communication for family diversity, because he has devoted so much time and energy to trying to educate other people and speak out. Because a lot of kids that I've met, they know, or adults say, I knew when I was 4 or 5, I told my mom, I'm a boy. And the mother would say, you're not a boy. You can't dress that way. Don't do this. Or schools would be frowning on them. So a lot of people know very early on. They just don't have the words, obviously. Nowadays, because it's more open, some kids are really transitioning very early.
There was a major book reading this weekend in New York, and Joey, you were the moderator, and I was wondering if you would talk from your perspective about how that night went.
So it was great because we had 3 other authors. We had Peggy, we had myself, we had Joseph Burwell and Reverend Camille Burns, who was in the book there, as well as Chris, my chosen family. But we had a big crowd. We had about 50 people at the Bureau of General Services, the Queer Division, over there in the Pride Center in New York City. And the audience was, for the first time, filled with my bio family, my chosen family, and my friends, and 2 of my children. So it was the first time that they all came together. I had a very compartmentalized life, and this is the first time they were all in the same space. And there was about 50 people. And I think after the book reading and signing, I've gotten a lot of emails and phone calls about, I didn't think about some of the things that you talked about. We didn't just read our books. We talked about who we are in the world. Almost everybody in the book is some type of activist. And Joseph and Tamir are activists. I mean, Chris has been out there at panels promoting Authentic Selves with Peggy. So everybody has really taken this as part of their passion in life. And so it was good to talk about who we were as individuals and why we got involved with the book and what we're doing with it.
Your heart must be overflowing right now.
It is, when it was sold out pre-order, it was just so fantastic to feel that. But people are telling me, Joey, I bought 4 or 5 books to bring to the library, to send to my senator all over this country. They're doing that for us. And these people I call not just allies, but accomplices, because that's what we need. These are accomplices helping us carry our message out there, of humanity. Because when you look at this book and you look at these photos, you can't help but connect to each person's humanity. And that's what's so important about this book, is that when you look into our faces, you see the joy, the love with the family. And that is so important to see.
That's amazing. And by the way, I figured out what's going on with the sound. So you're currently muted right now, Joey, because my voice at your end of the screen is what causes feedback. So I'll come back to you when it's time for you to talk. Peggy, how do you feel knowing that your life's work gave Joey this full circle moment that one could only dream about just this past weekend?
Well, when I was on that panel and both of the ones at the Common School with about 8 or 9 people from the book locally, and then seeing Joey and Joseph and Tamara, who flew up from North Carolina. Joseph is a physician's assistant, has worked with immigrants and who are trans, and seeing again their stories, but also their faces and their commitment to just, as Joey says, look at me in the face. You look at Joey and you feel like, oh my God, this could be my brother. Or, I have a grown child who's non-binary. I'm still working hard to get they, them pronouns all the time. It's, as a parent, when you had a child that's used a different pronoun for a long time with these old brains, it's been hard. But what I see is that we have to, all of us, as Joey calls accomplices, who are not facing the violence ourselves, people of color who are trans facing tremendous violence on every aspect, racism as well as transphobia, that we have a mission. We have to figure out ways to change people's hearts. It's a cliche, hearts and minds, spirits, but it's true, because unless people meet other people, I had somebody say, I never knew anybody who was trans, and now I do, and now I understand, because I've had, people will say, oh, why are there's so many, it's probably just a phase, why, what's this they, them, it's not grammatical, they shouldn't be playing sports. I have all sorts, as I've been working on it, even my very liberal friends will ask me all these questions. And once they saw the book or the exhibit, the questions started to dissolve by really delving into each individual's heart and story. And stories, you're an interviewer, so when you really allow people to tell their stories. I don't think I went through one interview, and many of them were Zoom because they were all over the country and it was COVID. I cried pretty much every single time, and not just from feeling bad for what some of the people have been through, there was that, but feeling the joy and just, particularly I'll have to say other parents, there was this one man who had really reconnected with his mom, and she came and spoke to me and just talked about how her son is the best son in the world. It took her a while to get there, but how much love she felt for her trans son, and how much acceptance, and how she said, every parent, our children are going to die. Your children will die if you don't come to them with love. We put them in danger. So again, I'm so thrilled that we have people like Joey and all the, actually 40 families, because some of them were not in the book. The book was getting too heavy in the exhibit. Every family I interviewed touched my heart, and will touch anybody who reads their stories, as not just great people, but remarkable people who are willing to share their struggle, their joy, their fears, their hearts. So, yeah.
Well, I'm in awe of both of you. Joey, there's two aspects of your story that I want to get into. First of all, I want to share with you, and remember, you're muted just because you have to be. I'll mute myself when you talk. But there's two aspects of your story that I want to get into. One of them is, in your journey, you ended up living in Sedona. I grew up in Flagstaff. I've been to Sedona so many times, and you also ended up identifying with your indigenous roots as Hopi. And I grew up with the Hopi and Navajo indigenous people, and one of my dearest friends is Hopi, and her son is named after me. But the thing that struck me, Joey, and then I'm going to turn your audio back on, is that you were in a situation where you were with people in a professional setting that knew your chosen pronouns and refused to use them. And I was wondering if you would talk a little bit about that. And I'm unmuting you now so we can hear you.
So it's interesting. When I showed up in Sedona, I was female-bodied, using he, him pronouns. I've been going to Sedona for many, many years because I'm also an advanced Reiki practitioner and a shamanic drummer, and that's where I've traveled since 2007 to experience that and be in that, the Reiki world. And so when I went there, I thought it would be very easy for me to be part of the community. Especially, there's a big population of LGBT folks, mostly LGB folks, I should say. Not too many T's, not too many trans and non-binary folks at first. So I was very surprised that because I was using he, him pronouns, but I was female bodied, that my own community was othering me. And so it was a very tough journey for me because it got very, very personal, mocking me. And especially, I was surprised that it was white gay men. You know, I was really surprised by that because it's so important that we all come together. And if you don't understand, then sit and talk to us. You know, I hear it a lot with older folks, you know, 55 and above, saying from our community, what's up with these trans folks? Why do they still have to be so out there? Why do they have to be so public? And, you know, that just strikes me, and I don't get them. You know, what they're saying is really raw. And so those are the type of language we need to change because we need to come together. This is a time that we all need to come together, no matter how you identify, because you're next. You know, we may be the target right now, but you never know who's next. And that's part of the issue. We should be seeing each other as siblings and uniting. Instead, we're mocking and saying, well, we don't understand. And that's the first thing when you don't understand something. We have the internet now. We have so many ways to educate ourselves. And education is so important. And so, yeah, I was really surprised. It took me back, and it actually made me silent for a while. I was very pulled away, you know, and I was really silent from my own community, which was heart-wrenching for me.
Oops, excuse me, sorry about that. What is it that gives you hope, joy, and inspiration today, Joey?
You know, the young folks really give me hope. They're out there. They're my heroes. They're out there mobilizing, organizing, and I'm talking, you know, 25 and under. We saw it with March for Lives, and now we're seeing it with Queer Youth Assemble. And they're out there. They, you know, they march on Washington. They have school walkouts. That gives me hope. People like Peggy Gillespie give me hope, you know, because she's a visionary. She may not have written in the book. She was the editor, but she was the visionary behind this. And those people like Peggy gives me hope. The Unitarian Universalist Association gives me hope that they back this book and they're been so supportive and caring. So yeah, there's been a lot of, especially the young folks, a lot of hope coming from them. And so I press on. There's days when I see the legislation and I get phone calls because I'm an educator. So people call me and I hear stories from parents. My child is starving themselves so they don't go through puberty because they can't get gender care. That breaks my heart. So they give me hope to keep going. And the folks in the book give me hope to keep going.
Well, that is extraordinarily beautiful, and I'm going to come to you in a moment, Peggy, but to leave us on a profoundly hopeful moment, Joey, I would be honored if you would tell me about the last time you saw your mother.
So my mom passed away in February of 2021. My mother refused to call me Joey, but I called her every day. I still kept that relationship with her. and she called me up and said to me, she had ill health. Her health was failing. And she told me, hurry up and get here. You know, she was in New Jersey. Hurry up and get here. And so I drove like crazy for 2.5 days to get there. And she came out of the ambulance. I was standing there waiting for her at her house. And, you know, this was Friday. Saturday, I sat by her bed most of the day. And then at nighttime, it was probably around 9 o'clock at night, she popped her head up, and her caregiver was sitting with me. She popped her head up and she looked at me and said, "Hey, Joey." And those were the last words she spoke. She gave me the greatest gift I could have asked for. She passed away 2 days later. And so I carry that with me. Being a Reiki practitioner, I certainly know that there's a lot that happens as you are transitioning from here to there, wherever there is. And so she had that awakening before she left, and she gave me the greatest gift. And her caregiver said that. But it happened, and it was fabulous for me.
I accidentally muted you when you said what the caregiver said, so please repeat that.
The caregiver said, my mother would have never called me Joey. She told me she would never say that. But it happened, and it was the greatest gift she could have given me.
Well, that's so profound, and I did want to just kind of punctuate our whole conversation with that very profound moment. Peggy, what would you like to say that we might not have addressed in the conversation today, or that you would like to emphasize?
Well, I want to emphasize, I guess, really what Joey is saying, that we need to, all of us, and I said it before, but we need to celebrate authentic selves, whatever that means for anybody, and not question, oh, this isn't real. Like, know that if your child comes out to you, whatever they're coming out to you about, that's who they are. That's who they know. Maybe people go through changes. It's, you know, sometimes as Joey was a lesbian, and then comes out as trans. Accept everybody where they are. And I just yesterday or the day before saw a play called The Happiest Man Alive. It was about a Jewish man, it's a true story, a memoir. He just died at 101, and he was in Buchenwald and Auschwitz, and then wound up, you know, obviously traumatized, had been a horrible life, but married this woman. And then when he saw his child born, he said something switched in his brain, and he realized there is life, there is goodness, and there is hope. And he said it just changed him, and he became the happiest man in the world. He said every breath he took, every day was filled with gratitude. And then at the end, he turned to the audience and said, there's 3 things that are important. 1, family. 2, family. 3, family. And then he said, and we are all family. And that's the message that I believe what we're all, what you're doing, Nicholas, what Joey's, why he's sharing, why all the 40 people and families were sharing, because we want people to know we are all family, and we all deserve that sense of safety, whether we're a little kid in a school being bullied, or we're a grown person, older, and feeling alone. Like, we must see the love. I mean, again, it can sound cliched, but I don't know what else, at 75, I don't know what else is important in this world. Anything that counters hatred and judgment and fear. So that's why I do this work. That's why I've done it for, it seems like forever, since I was young. Now I'm not young anymore, but I still feel as passionate about helping to educate all of us to know that we're all family and that we all deserve love and kindness.
Someone posted in my social media today a quote of Maya Angelou, and the paraphrase of the quote, because I don't remember it verbatim, is if you're going to live a life that involves a legacy that cannot be erased. And I think I want to cry when I say that, but I think all three of us are accomplishing that, and the only reason that we're accomplishing that is we were taught the value of life by other people through their own losses and tragedies and triumphs. Joy, I'm going to come to you again, and I want to ask you: is there anything you would like to add to the interview that you have not, to sort of wrap up your appearance here today?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say to everybody out there, you're not alone. And if you're seeking answers or trying to educate yourself, grab Authentic Selves and read it. And if you're a parent struggling with a trans or non-binary child, even a gay or lesbian child, it's worth picking up and reading. And we're here and we're out, trying to get the photo exhibit across this country because we want people to know that we're human and we're fabulous human beings. Everybody in the book, and every sibling that I have out there, you're not alone.
Thank you for being on the show, Joey.
Thank you, Nicholas, for having me and being part of my community and affirming us.
Okay, Peggy, I want to give you the last word.
Well, I think the last word for me is always kindness. Dalai Lama famously said, "My only religion is kindness." And that's the religion I subscribe to. And I just want to wish that everybody listening to you, and thank you, Nicholas, for bringing the light to this topic, but to every topic that you touch on, that what you're doing is an act of kindness. And what everybody did in this book, exactly, was a kind act, taking the courage to share one's life and stories and give people the privilege of knowing, as Joey said, that these are we're all incredible human beings, and may we all live in kindness and compassion and support for each other.
Well, my heart is moved by our conversation today. One of my viewers, Lance Druckerman, says thank you for another informative interview, and thank you, Peggy Gillespie and Joey Morelli. And I just want to thank you both again. I would like to ask you to stay put, because after I wrap up the show, I want to explain to you more about how you can share this episode, and just thank you privately for being on the show. So thanks again to you both.
Thank you, and to all the audience for listening with care. Thank you.
And for everybody at home, thank you for watching my special Pride Month episodes. There are hundreds of episodes at PromoHomo.TV, and I will see you next time.
In a safe place, I got room to breathe. Been a long chase, but at last I'm free. These open woods, I knew I could find peace here. Nothing like the city where I got tired of the running, the catching up. I got hungry for the stunning high mountain tops. So I made some plans, some dreams to catch, to promised lands, to find my path, see the planet got hungry for the sun.